Hey everyone, ready for a wild ride? Today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Nearer.
That's right, we are.
We're talking tech on overdrive, AI going off the charts.
Well, off the charts.
And what it all means for, well, you and me.
Yeah.
The future of humanity. You ready to have your mind blown?
I'm ready.
Because I am. The stuff is incredible.
It's not sci-fi anymore, is it?
Right.
It's like this is now. We are at the beginning of it all, this singularity unfolding and the pace of change.
It's critical.
It's mind-bogglingly fast.
The Kurzweil uses this term, the law of accelerating returns, the LOR.
Right, right.
It's basically like technology. It's on a rocket ship, fueled by its own exhaust,
Right.
Every time it moves forward, it's just going faster and faster and cheaper.
And the examples he gives are really, they make you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just think about this. A single dollar today can buy you 11,200 times more computing power than it could back in 2005.
That's insane.
It's like comparing, I don't know, a horse and buggy to a SpaceX rocket.
I know. It's like, you remember your first cell phone? That big, clunky thing?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I mean, look, we have AI in our pockets, right?
Yeah.
Translating languages right in front of our eyes. And the cost of, like, mapping your entire genetic code, it's dropped.
Massively.
By, get this, 99.997%.
That's right.
It's unbelievable.
And it's that kind of progress that's fueling everything.
I know. It's kind of scary, but also exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's fueling the rise of everything. Social media, self-driving cars.
Right, everything. And Kurzweil argues that this all leads to, 6 distinct stages, epochs of evolution.
Okay.
And each one builds on the last.
Makes sense.
And right now,
Yeah.
humans are chilling in the 4th epoch. But AI? AI's coming up fast.
And here's the real mind blower, right? Kurzweil predicts that AI will pass the Turing test, like really convincingly, by 2029.
Yeah.
We're talking less than 5 years from now. Potentially, we could be having conversations with AI. You wouldn't even know it.
Right. You wouldn't know you were talking to a machine.
So, okay, let's say AI surpasses us, right? Human intelligence. Is that it? Is that the 5th epoch? What does that even look like?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? To understand that, I think we have to look at ourselves. What makes us tick? The engine of our own intelligence,
Go on.
The neocortex.
What act?
The neocortex. It's this, like, dense area in our brains, and it's responsible for all the good stuff. The thinking, the learning, the adapting.
So wait, are you saying AI is being, like, modeled after the human brain?
In a way, yeah. Artificial neural networks, they're like the building blocks of AI, and they're structured kind of like our neocortex. They learn and adapt just like our brains do.
That's incredible. And we're already seeing it, right?
Yeah.
With language models like GPT-3, PAL-M.
Right, right.
These things can write different kinds of creative content. They translate languages like it's nothing. They even write computer code.
Yeah, they're really impressive.
It's like they've, like, unlocked some next-level problem-solving ability or something.
They use something called transformers and attention mechanisms. They basically, it's like how we focus on certain pieces of information, to kind of get the bigger picture. These models do that.
It's kind of creepy, though, right?
It is a bit, yeah.
But also really cool. Kurzweil, he tells this funny story about GPT-3, like making a joke about, getting lost in its work. Almost like it's self-aware.
I know. It's
weird.
It's easy to get caught up in that, the amusement. We can't forget, these models, they're mimicking us, but they're not really understanding it.
Language.
Yeah, language. They don't get it like we do. To reach, like, true human-level intelligence, AI needs to develop a theory of mind. Like, imagine understanding that other beings, they have their own thoughts and beliefs, their own feelings.
So it's not just about processing information. It's about, like, understanding that we have our own internal worlds.
Exactly. And once AI cracks that code, things could change very, very quickly. That's where we get into the idea of foam.
Foam.
Yeah, the fast onset of overwhelming mastery.
Catchy.
AI hits the turbo button, basically. Like, it can program itself, design itself, improve itself at a pace we can't even fathom.
Okay, now we're talking about AI that can essentially think for itself.
Right.
Learn at warp speed, and maybe even decide what it wants.
Potentially, yeah.
And that leads us to what? Another mind-blowing Kurzweil idea.
Well, he talks about the idea of, what if we could connect our brains directly to the cloud?
Whoa, hold on. Connect our brains to the cloud, like literally plug ourselves into the internet.
Yeah, like that.
That sounds like, I don't know, the Matrix or something.
Right, it's wild.
Seriously, like how how would that even work?
Well, Kurzweil, he's got this idea about nanobots, these tiny little robots, right?
Okay.
And they would act like tiny little bridges,
Hmm.
connecting our neurons in our brains to get the simulated neurons in the cloud.
So you're saying, like, our brains could become part of this giant network?
Yeah, like a massive upgrade. We could, like, think beyond the limits of our own skulls.
Okay, now that's scary, but kind of cool too.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that change, like, everything? Who we are? If we're part machine, are we even human anymore?
Big questions, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, these are the things philosophers have been debating for centuries.
Yeah.
And now, here comes technology, forcing us to figure it out.
Well, I, for one, don't have the answers.
Do you?
Yeah.
Kurzweil, he really gets into the weeds on consciousness. He even breaks it down into, like, two types, functional and subjective.
Functional and subjective. Okay. Explain it to me like I'm, like, 5, I guess. What's the difference?
Right. So functional consciousness is like our basic operating system.
Okay.
It's us being aware of the world, making decisions. But then there's subjective consciousness.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff, your qualia. The
Right.
feeling of what it's like to be you, the taste of your favorite food, you know, the joy of, I don't know, a hug, the feeling of looking up at the stars, that awe, that's qualia.
You know, that's deep, man, but can you really replicate that in a machine? I mean, really?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Kurzweil, he suggests this pan-protopsychist view. It's the idea that consciousness, it might not just be a living thing, it could be a fundamental part of, like, you know, how information itself is processed. So it could exist in other systems.
Okay, now my head officially hurts. So, like, let's say we copy your brain
Right.
perfectly, electronically, create you 2.0. Would that be, like, conscious? Would that be you, you know, with all your memories? Or just a really, really good copycat?
It makes you think, doesn't it? Like, it kind of ties into this other wild idea Kurzweil talks about, this idea of a fine-tuned
The
universe.
fine-tuned universe. Go on.
So, like, the laws of physics,
Yeah.
right? The conditions that were present at the very beginning of, well, everything. He argues that they're so perfectly imbalanced.
Like a perfect recipe.
Yeah, kind of. Like, if you change even one ingredient just a little bit, even a
Yeah.
tiny bit, it all goes haywire.
Interesting.
No stars, no galaxies, no us.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it. All those things had to be just right for us to even be here.
Exactly. Makes you appreciate how precious consciousness is. Which actually leads to another pretty wild idea from the book, afterlife avatars.
Hold on, hold on. Are we talking about, like, digital ghosts of people who've passed away?
Kind of. Imagine you can interact with a simulation of someone you've lost.
Okay.
And it's not just some basic chatbot, but a really convincing digital replica using everything they ever put out there, you know, emails, social media, even their internet history.
So, like, a digital version of them with their memories and everything?
Yeah, exactly. Their personality, everything.
I mean, that's a lot. I don't even know how I'd feel about that.
Right. It's definitely a strange concept to wrap your head around, especially if we start getting into the uncanny valley thing, where these simulations become so realistic that they're almost too real.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting creeped out now. Let's switch gears for a second. All this future talk is fascinating, but I mean, this stuff's already impacting us now.
Oh, absolutely. Kurzweil argues that we're on the verge of some huge breakthroughs in so many areas. Think renewable energy, 3D printing, even radical life extension.
Yeah.
And it's all going down within our lifetimes.
Okay, I'm listening. Give me the good news.
Well, for starters, imagine a world where renewable energy just blows fossil fuels out of the water.
I like where this is going.
And not because of some government mandate or even because we all suddenly become environmental saints. It just becomes cheaper and more efficient.
So, just like that, no more fossil fuels.
It's already happening. We're seeing the early stages of this transition. And then there's 3D printing.
Okay, everyone keeps talking about 3D printing, but is it really going to live up to the hype?
Oh, Kurzweil definitely thinks so. Imagine printing, like custom buildings, clothes even.
Yeah.
Human organs, on demand.
Wait, on demand? Like ordering a pizza?
Exactly. It sounds crazy, but the technology is advancing at an incredible pace.
That's wild. Okay, what about medicine? You said something about radical life extension.
Yeah, so Kurzweil lays out a bunch of different ways this could happen. One big thing is AI, using AI to design drugs, you know, personalizing treatments.
Right.
Imagine AI that can simulate, like, new drugs on thousands of virtual patients.
So instead of those huge, expensive clinical trials, we just test it all out virtually.
Exactly. Get treatments to people way faster, way safer.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg. He even talks about nanobots that could repair cellular damage, like actually reverse aging.
Nanobots swimming around in our bodies, fixing things at a microscopic level. That still sounds like sci-fi to me.
I know, right? It does. But the basic technology for that kind of stuff, it's being developed now.
That's incredible. But let's be real for a second. As cool as this all sounds, there are going to be some serious growing pains,
Of
right?
course, and Kurzweil acknowledges that.
I mean, our world is about to get turned upside down.
Right. He knows automation is going to shake things up. Could mean a lot of people lose their jobs, which could lead to some, well, unrest. It's a real concern.
That's what everyone's worried about, right?
Yeah.
Robots and AI are going to come for our jobs. And then what?
It's a scary thought. But Kurzweil, he brings up a good point.
Mm-hmm.
We've been through similar transitions before in history. Think about the Industrial Revolution, right?
Okay, yeah.
Machines came in, and a lot of jobs, they went away.
Yeah.
But it also created whole new industries,
Ah.
new opportunities.
Right, like the classic Luddite fallacy. Just because there's new technology, it doesn't mean there's less work to do overall.
Exactly. And Kurzweil thinks the same will happen again. Some jobs, yeah, they'll disappear. But a whole bunch of new ones we can't even imagine yet, they'll take their place. We'll need new skills, though, a whole new way of thinking about work.
That's easy to say, but what about the people who get left behind? Like the ones who lose their jobs and just, can't adapt as fast. How do we make sure that everyone benefits? I mean, we need some kind of safety net for folks, right?
Right. And Kurzweil, he actually suggests something like, universal basic income.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that it could give people that cushion if their jobs go away because of all this automation. It's a big change, I know. But we might need it to, make sure things don't go off the rails.
It's a whole new way of thinking about, work and life in general.
And it's not even just about the money, right? Kurzweil, he thinks that once we have all this abundance, once tech's taking care of our basic needs,
Yeah.
our biggest problem is going to be figuring out what it all means, what your purpose is. Like a lot of those traditional jobs, they won't be around anymore. It's like we're climbing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but way faster than we're used to.
Maslow's hierarchy. Okay, refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, so it's this idea in psychology, right? We all have basic needs,
Mm-hmm.
the important stuff. Food, water, a roof over our heads, feeling safe.
Right, the basics.
Yeah, and once we have those, then we start aiming higher. Love, belonging, feeling good about ourselves, and ultimately self-actualization,
Yeah.
becoming our best selves.
Okay, it's all coming back to me now. So as technology handles those basic needs, we're free to focus on all that other stuff, the more meaningful parts of life.
Exactly. But the question is, are we ready for that? I mean, work is such a big part of who we are. How do we find our place in a world where we don't have to work?
Yeah, it's almost too much freedom in a way.
It's a valid point. But imagine if we could embrace that freedom. What if we could spend our time exploring our passions, being creative, or tackling big problems, without stressing about a paycheck?
Okay, I'll admit that part does sound kind of nice, but is that realistic? I mean, we're talking about a fundamental shift in how society works.
It's a big leap, for sure. But Kurzweil, he seems pretty optimistic about humanity's ability to adapt, to not just survive, but to thrive, even when things get turned upside down. He's got to have some reason to think we can handle it, right?
I hope so. I guess we've gotten through some pretty tough stuff before.
Right. He talks about how we face down, like natural disasters, wars, pandemics, and every time we come out the other side, stronger, more resilient, more creative even.
But this feels different, doesn't it? Like the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
And everything's happening so much faster.
Yeah, I hear you. This isn't just another upgrade. It's a fundamental shift in how we understand our relationship with technology. And you're right, it's moving at lightning speed. But even with all the potential downsides.
Which, let's be real, there are definitely some potential downsides.
Of course. But even with those, Kurzweil, he still sees a positive outcome. He really believes in this stuff.
Well, I'm trying to stay optimistic, but realistically, what does this all mean for me or for anyone listening? How do we wrap our heads around all of this and prepare for a future that feels kind of unknowable?
That's the big question everyone's asking, right? But I don't think it's about becoming some tech guru overnight or predicting the future with 100% accuracy.
So what is it about?
It's about, being open to learning new things all the time. It's about curiosity, about being adaptable. Because let's be honest, we're not going to have all the answers.
That's true. I guess that's part of the adventure.
Right. Instead of freaking out, we just roll with it, like explorers, charting a new world.
Okay, I like that. It's a new frontier. But we've got to be smart about it, too. We can't just ignore the risks.
Exactly. And Kurzweil, he doesn't. especially when it comes to AI. I mean, he's the first one to point out the dangers.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, like, what if AI is used for bad stuff, like making autonomous weapons?
Oh, yeah. No one wants to see that.
Right. It's why it's so important to have rules, ethical guidelines
Yeah.
for how we develop AI, how we use it.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Mm.
But also, it means we have some power here, too. It's not just something being done to us, right?
Exactly. The singularity isn't like preordained or whatever. We're building it. Right now, with the choices we make, the actions we take, it's on us.
Wow. When you put it like that, it really hits differently. So, like, here we are, standing at the edge of this crazy technological revolution. And the question isn't so much what's the future going to be, but what do we want it to be?
Big questions.
And how do we make sure everyone benefits, that it's not just like a select few who get to reap the
Oh,
rewards?
those are the questions we all need to be thinking about,
Yeah.
every single one of us.
This has been quite a conversation, from mind-blowing AI to like deep philosophical stuff about consciousness, what it means to be human, the future of, well, everything, really.
It's been quite a ride.
It really has. I hope our listeners are walking away, not just informed, but inspired.
I hope so, too, to have those conversations, the ones that really matter.
Exactly. For everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Nearer. It's definitely a book that makes you think big, challenge what you thought you knew, and really get excited and maybe a little terrified about the future and the role we all play in creating it.